go to the next page, huh?
So after 3,000 hours of playing Lost Ark, I decided to make a review video and kind of go down the list of some pros and cons I've come up with about what I enjoy about the game, what I dislike about the game. And I've been actually struggling a little bit with this video because recently I've been lacking a little bit of motivation to hop on and actually play Lost Ark. And I didn't want this video to come off as just a lot of negativity around the game, but I'm just gonna go ahead and just be as honest as I possibly can be. And regardless of how much larger my con list is than my pros list, we're just gonna go ahead and get through them anyway. So to start off with one of the pros of this game, I think that each individual class feels great for the most part. Now, I don't have every single class in the game, but I do have a majority of them. And when I play each one of these, they feel kind of unique in their own ways, and that feels good. And the skill effects for each class feel good. Now, obviously, I have some favorites of these. I don't enjoy every class, but for the most part, every one of them feels pretty decent. Now, even though I like playing different classes, at the end of the day, I feel like that should be more of a choice than mandatory. And now, obviously, we all have a choice. I could just make one character, have one character only, and never make any alts, and still play Lost Ark. Now, I'd probably have a little bit worse of a time than other people in terms of upgrading or what have you. But I think the idea of having to make alts in order to get your main character to where it should be is just it's flawed, because it creates this demand of homework that we all know. If you play Lost Ark, you know the homework that comes with Lost Ark. You got, every time you make a new character, that's 2 more Guardian raids, that's 2 more Chaos dungeons, and for the most part, if you're at least 1475, that's 3 more Legion raids. Now, for me, the Legion raids aren't really the problem. I enjoy the Legion raids, and even having my 6 top gold earners running 3 Legion raids a week, I'm okay with that, because that type of content to me is fun and I enjoy it. But doing Chaos dungeons and Guardian raids gets incredibly exhausting. It's not really enjoyable content. After a while, it just becomes so much of a chore, you kind of dread it. At least in my opinion, I dread it. Now, there's definitely some things I think they could do to, to kind of fix that, and maybe make it so you only have to do 1 Chaos dungeon a day giving the same rewards, or 1 Guardian raid a day giving the same rewards, I guess, per character. But at the end of the day, I just think it just becomes too much. But the truth about it is, if you only had 1 character, the lack of things to actually do, like, you wouldn't even be on this game that long. Like, if you were to load in and just do your Chaos dungeon twice, do your Guardian raid twice, and finish your Legion raids for the week, I mean, that's it. And then for the rest of the week, and you finish that in a couple hours, and then for the rest of the week, the only thing left for you is Chaos dungeons and Guardian raids. I mean, there's literally nothing left for you. The way this game gives more content is by just having multiple characters. So when you finish the actual lack of content that there is in this game, you just go and repeat the process over and over and over and over and over. And, I mean, that's just the cold hard truth of it. This game really doesn't have much to offer in terms of abundance of content. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I don't mind doing 3 Legion raids on 6 different characters each week, because that's one of the things that's on my pros list. The Legion raids. The Legion raids are fantastic. They've been put together really well. All the different mechanics in each raid gives it its own unique feel, but each raid feels great, and when you complete them, it feels good. And that's one thing that'll probably keep me playing Lost Ark is the Legion raids. So even if I take a large break, or maybe I'm playing a different game maining a different game. You know, I'm sure I'll come back and play Legion raids on Lost Ark every now and then with some friends to kind of piggyback off that pro. Some of the mechanics are just too punishing. I know there's going to be a lot of people that'll disagree. I think having a mechanic in a raid where if one person messes up, everybody has to restart kind of sets the tone for an incredibly toxic player base. And we see that in Lost Ark today. I mean, if you've ever been trying to get into a raid on your alt and you're getting denied and denied and denied, well, that's because people don't want to take people who they think might mess up the raid and then wipe everybody, and then everybody gets stuck, and you just have to keep going over and over and over and over and over. People don't want to waste their time because, you know, it's an alt heavy game. People have an incredible amount of alts. They have to do an incredible amount of raids. Well, they don't have to, but you understand my point. There's a lot of homework in this game, and the people who want to do it, they don't want to waste too much time doing it because there's a lot to do. So it creates this toxic behavior because it's coupled with the idea that one person in the raid fails, then everybody has to restart, and coupled with the idea that people have to make a bunch of alts, so they have a bunch of homework. You could relieve some of that pressure of like toxic behavior by literally just removing those mechanics that will wipe the entire raid, and instead of making it that you just make it so the person who messed up the mechanic dies. It's still punishing because you're losing a DPS or you're losing a support, whoever's messing up, you're losing that person, so you're down a person. You know, if 2 people fail, 2 people down. If 3 people fail, there's 3 people down. You know, there's still the punishment of losing a player for the rest of the raid is still a punishment. And I can almost guarantee that people would be more willing to take players who might be at level, maybe they're a 4x3 instead of a 5x3, if the mechanics weren't as punishing. Even though they have a lot of homework, if they in their head knew that, okay, well, we have 2 DPS or 3 DPS that can pretty much carry it, like we're just looking for players at this point, you know, they'd probably be more willing to take them, you know. But as it stands right now, the way Lost Ark is right now, they're not going to take them because there's too much homework, there's too much on the line, and they don't want to be wasting their time for no reason. That's why the people look for titles. That's why people look for eye level. People look for your engravings. They might look at your roster level. You know, maybe they even look at your card set. You know, yeah. I just think it kind of sets the tone to set up like a very toxic player base. Those two things combined: the Legion raid wipe mechanic plus having a crap ton of homework to do because you have so many alts. Something that I don't like about this game is the amount of engravings that we have. There's a bunch of engravings, but just about 90% of them are actually useless. You will never use any of these ever, and they have absolutely no purpose whatsoever. All these ones are just completely useless, and even though each of your classes feels different in their gameplay and unique in their own right, one thing I don't like is the engraving system and how every class pretty much uses the same exact engravings for the most part. You're going to be using Grudge, Cursed Doll, Adrenaline, Hitmaster, Ambush, Keen Blunt. These are just the same engravings repeated over and over and over and over and over. And it's just this cookie cutter idea that I don't really like. I feel like the engraving system should be reworked and kind of give options. Theory craft and mess around with things and try to get a better result overall, or maybe a better result for just what you're trying to do in general. But because there's a lack of options here that are actually viable, you really can't. There's really no room to do that in this game. It's pretty much, listen, if you're not going with this, and this, then it's garbage. Whatever you're trying to run, it's bad. Another system I don't really like is the Fion system. To me, it is literally the most useless system in any game I've ever seen. It is so bad, and it punishes players, especially new players. It punishes new players so bad because you need Fions in order to buy accessories on the market. Now, if you're a new player coming in to Lost Ark, and you're going to probably quickly realize gatekeeping whenever you're trying to join a raid. Because what's going to happen is you're going to go to join that raid, and they're going to look at your engravings and to see if you have the right engravings. They're going to look at your gems. They're going to look at your gear score. Now, let's just say in their mind, they look at you and you pass the gear score that they want. And then they go to your engravings and they realize you don't have the engravings that they want you to have. Well, the only way for you to get those engravings is to buy the accessories that have those engravings. Well, when you go to buy accessories, you're going to have to pay fions. So not only are you going to have to pay an absurd amount for the accessory to get those good engravings and the good combat stats on it, but you're going to have to pay the fions too. Well, as a new player, you're probably not earning that much money. You probably don't have an incredibly large amount of alts trying to earn you money. And even if you have just a couple characters, well, how are you going to gain money? Well, you gain money by doing Legion raids. Well, how are you supposed to do Legion raids if people are gatekeeping you? So how are you supposed to earn money to buy your accessories to get you the engravings you need to play a Legion raid and get accepted? I guess kind of tough luck. The only way to get around this loop is to find a guild or find some players, maybe look for some learning parties, get people to kind of bring you along and show you the ropes. And there's not that much these days. There's really not. A lot of people just want to get their homework done. They want to get into the Legion raid and finish it and be done with it for the week. You know, it's a really bad system because at the end of the day, new players are important. Nobody wants to play a dead MMO. And if new players come in and they have a really bad experience, well, they're going to leave and they're not going to come back. And older players who maybe get burnt out, tired of the game, are going to leave. Well, if burnt out players are leaving and no new players want to stay, well, the game's going to die. For me, you know, I run my own guilds, and I've noticed this the most, where I don't see many new players coming into this game. And I do, however, see a lot of old players that have gone. I go through my friends list a lot, and I'll see hasn't been on for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Go into my guildmates in the guild list and scroll down, and you just see hasn't logged in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And most of these people never come back. There's a lot of old players leaving and not an equivalent amount of new players joining. Moving on to something else that I'm not really a fan of in the game is getting locked out. You basically, you can't farm in this game. You can't go get infinite amount of mats so you can farm honing and leveling up. You can't get an infinite amount of gold. Everything has some kind of lock at a certain point that you get locked out. And before you go, oh, well, there's infinite chaos, stop that. You know, most MMOs I've ever played, if I want to go grind, I can go grind. I can go out in the world somewhere and I can just farm mobs infinitely, get drops, maybe sell them on the market, maybe sell them to a vendor, maybe get a unique drop, sell that, whatever. But the point is, the game leaves it up to me about how much time that I want to put in to get a return in my investment of farming. And in this game, there is really not that option. You can go into Chaos twice a day, Guardian raids twice a day per character, and then Legion raids 3 times per character each week. And that's it. That's the end of the day. That's the end of it. Another thing that's pretty bad at this game is PvP in this game is pretty bad. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at that. Something else I think is terrible in this game is anything to do with horizontal content it's just repetitive. I mean, you just get some collectibles, cooking, vistas, you do the dungeons in normal and hard. Like, none of this really has any value. You do the dungeon once normally when you're doing your, you know, the main quests or whatever, but then to wrap around and just like have to do it a second time, there's no real value in that for you personally. It's just a time waster. Vistas, okay, that's cool. I mean, you know, that's something to, I guess, collecting. I don't know. To me, this really isn't, it's not appealing. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I can't enjoy it. I know there's a couple people in my guild, a couple friends of mine. They, for some odd reason, love horizontal content, and they will farm this shit endlessly. I, however, cannot stand it. I think it is so mind-numbingly boring I can't get around it. I think really the last thing I have to talk about is, this is probably like one of the largest cons on my list, is the idea of trying to recreate a game that already exists. That's basically what our version is in NA. KR has the game as it should be, as it is, full release, up to date, current, while we just continually drag along in the shadows. And I think it's really bizarre to me. I've never played a game forever in my life where I was playing a different version of the game while people somewhere else in the world were playing a more up-to-date version of the game that I just wasn't allowed to have access to. I think it's bizarre. It's like walking down the street and looking through the window of a store while other people are in the store. You're not allowed to go in. It just makes no sense to me. I think it's a really bizarre concept, and I really hope that this does not become some kind of weird norm in the gaming world, because I think it's absolutely unacceptable. I think it creates weird separation between players across regions. You know, nowadays you have, you know, streaming platforms are so big, a lot of people go watch their favorite streamers, and you got a lot of these streamers over playing the KR version, and their fan base, the people who watch them, can't even play with them, you know, for one. And for two, it's just like constantly viewing something that you yourself aren't, like, you know, KR gets updates all the time where they get new raids, new classes, new updates to their quality of life, and we just don't get a chance to experience that with them. We don't get a chance to experience that at all until months and months go by until we finally get it. And it's this idea of like trying to release content to us here in NA to make it feel like it's a new game. At least that's what I think, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't understand why we can't have the full version like KR has. Even if we were to be maybe like a week or two behind, like KR gets an update and maybe the week after that we get our update, everything being localized, what have you. I don't understand how we can be so far behind, and it doesn't feel like they want to do anything in that respect to bring us up to date. I mean, I think that was made kind of evident the moment that it was announced that Artist wasn't going to be coming out until April. I mean, like, I think that kind of set in stone how they're going to be handling getting us closer to where KR is, because at this pace we'll never catch up. You know, if they're going to span the gap on how often they're releasing updates here in NA, you know, we're never going to catch up, because KR is still constantly getting updates, what feels like quicker than we get updates here in NA. So it just won't happen. And I originally, when I started playing this game, I was under the impression, maybe it was a large amount of copium that I was inhaling, but I was under the impression that the goal and the plan was to get NA caught up to KR. But like I said, I think with the announcement of Artist not coming out for there was basically a 4-month gap until an update, I think it was kind of evident that they don't plan on catching us up. So anyway, that's basically my review of the game. I know there's a lot of cons compared to the pros that I have for this game, and it is what it is, really. But it's not that I'm not going to play Lost Ark anymore. I'm still going to be on Lost Ark. I'm still going to be doing Legion raids. I still want to hit up the newer Legion raids that come out that we haven't gotten here in NA yet. I'll just probably be playing some other games in between me playing Lost Ark and testing that stuff out. So in the very near future here, you'll be seeing some more games on my channel. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching. If you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on the video. Also, come check me out live on Twitch. The link is in the description below.